My name is Edward Buckland, and today I will be presenting the paper Managing Trajectories and Interactions During a Pandemic, which is a joint work with Egerman Tannen, Nicholas Gerd, Cameron Zackerson, Jairo Sier, and Hanan Summit. COVID-19 has exposed just how unprepared we are as a society in addressing the risks surrounding pandemics. Specifically, there is a pronounced lack of long-term sustainable control measures. For a management strategy to be sustainable, we can broadly distill two desirable qualities. Firstly, it needs to be proactive as opposed to reactive, and secondly, it needs to be minimally invasive to maximize societal productivity. Widely deployed interventions include lockdowns, border closures, and service restrictions. These are great at indiscriminately reducing transmission, but tend to pose enormous economic and socio-psychological burdens. On the contrary, contact tracing and subsequent close contact isolation are very targeted but are entirely reactive, with no capacity to prevent the initial transmission. Vaccination is one of the only solutions that sort of satisfies both criteria, but achieving herd immunity is a huge investment, potentially unviable in future pandemics. The problem surrounding existing massively proactive solutions is that they are based on the naive principle of limiting transmission by just limiting all interpersonal contact. However, not all contact presents equal risk. I will illustrate this point with a simple example. Suppose we have 3 students, who each have scheduled classes at 9, 10, and 11 am, and students B and C's classes overlap. Suppose they all wish to drink coffee, and that there are 2 possible cafes. If all students go to the nearest cafe, we get the following trajectories. Looking at the transmission network on the right, direct transmission is possible between students A and B and C, and student A may even infect student C through student B. On the other hand, if student B visits Cafe 2 instead, the transmission network is entirely disjoint, so anti-transmission properties and contact traceability are greatly improved. Since B and C will already spend so much time together, visiting a cafe together poses minimal additional risk. Furthermore, the extra distance that student B has to walk isn't even that significant, so this improvement involves very little imposition, definitely less than a broad measure such as simply shutting down all cafes. Our research is driven by this idea that optimal scheduling as a concept is both proactive and minimally imposing. Presenting this idea as a global optimization is problematic because firstly, there is no universal metric for transmission topology quality, but also because global optimization requires global information, which would necessarily violate privacy. However, clustering on trajectory similarities as a proxy, we can broadly achieve improved contact tracing and possible reduced transmission, and furthermore, this can be done efficiently and entirely privacy aware. Applications like campuses and workplaces are particularly suited to solutions of this nature. We designed a system where users register for activities such as drinking coffee and get assigned equivalent activities such as time slots at a cafe. Our privacy-aware similarity primitive is as follows. Suppose 2 anonymous users register for the same activity, and we wish to calculate their similarity. Using Diffie-Hellman key exchange, the users can establish a common private key. They can then discretize their timetables and hash the strings with the private key to generate sets of digests. Finally, the central server need only calculate the similarity between these digest sets to calculate the trajectory similarity. Returning to the students and cafes example, recall that only students B and C share classes. To create a similarity matrix of the activity drinking coffee, we simply invoke our similarity primitive pairwise. Students A and B share no classes, so their similarity is 0. Likewise, A and C share no classes, so their similarity is also 0. Students B and C do share classes though, so their similarity comes out to be 0.5. Note that we use a Jacquard index, so the quotient of the cardinalities of the intersection and union, but the choice of similarity metric is largely flexible with only minor semantic differences. Looking at the similarity matrix, B and C clearly form a tight cluster, yielding the desired disjoint topology seen earlier. With larger similarity matrices, finding the best clusters is actually quite difficult, in fact, NP hard. A good heuristic method is spectral clustering, which comes out to be slightly worse than quadratic complexity. The practical performance of our implementation pretty much matches theory. Note that heuristic partitioning of activities can be considered essentially independent, so this can also be completely parallelized in distributed systems. I will now briefly show our application demonstration, which consists of a mobile application for users and a desktop application for administrators. The main part of the mobile application is a timetable-like interface where users can register for activities. If the given activity has been scheduled and approved, the dot on the activity will turn green. The Map tab then shows the location of approved activities. The QR code tab is used on entry to activities to verify registration, and the Contact tab facilitates contacting administrators in the event of a problem. The primary view of the Administrator tab is a large table of all activities and details such as activity size and scheduling status. Administrators may step into an activity to schedule it. On the right is the activity's similarity matrix. Administrators select the locations of different partitions and then press Clustered Split. Each partition may then be approved, rejected, or split further if deemed necessary. The Administrator Map tab gives an aggregated view of the spatio-temporal density of registrants to inform safer scheduling and better facility utilization. 2 more tabs are currently included for research and testing. These are not privacy aware and not intended for a deployed product. The People tab provides a number of diagnostics and metrics of the entire population. The other tab, which I will illustrate with a smaller example, is an interactive bipartite DAG representation of the interaction network, where the vertical axis is time, activity nodes are colored by status, and person nodes are blue, with each person's nodes grouped by vertical gray lines. Here is a simple example with a visually intuitive optimum. Using spectral clustering, the scheduling yields a disjoint interaction network. Using random clustering, however, the interaction network is of far lower quality. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me via email or at sigspatial2021.